Welcome to part 2 of the Land of Roar. Now, we just left Arthur and Rose, who'd found out the amazing news that they were going to have their granddad's attic turned into a den. Sounded really cool. However, Grandad did say to them, you've got to tidy it yourself. They weren't too pleased about that. So let's see how they're getting on tidying up Grandad's attic. Chapter 3. Rose decides that we're going to put everything in the garden before sorting out what's going to the tip and what's going to the charity shop. And hurry up, Arthur, soon becomes her favourite phrase. But it's hard to hurry up when there's so much cool stuff to look at. I discover a magic set, a whole pillowcase stuffed full of Playmobil pirates, and I even find a wizard's hat perched on top of an oar. I wonder if this could be what I saw at the window, but the oar is right at the back of the attic. There's no way I could have seen it from the garden. I put the hat on and creep up on Rose, planning to scare her, but when she turns around, she just narrows her eyes and says, "Didn't you once have an imaginary friend who was a wizard?" She's right, I did. His name was Wininja, and he was stealthy and a bit magical. He was a wizard ninja, Rose. Big difference, she smiles. Is he standing next to you right now, Arthur? Whispering in your ear? The moment she says this, I have the sensation that someone could be standing next to me, and I have to fight the urge to look. Rose goes back to her books, and I glance around the attic, my eyes lingering on the darkest corners. "Hurry up, Arthur!" Rose snaps. While Rose takes her bag downstairs, I decide to get started on the dressing up box. I take out an armful of clothes and dump them on the floor. I'm just trying to detangle a ball of beards and wigs when I spot a Quality Street tin buried at the bottom of the box. I pull it out and feel the weight of it in my hands. It's round and dented and has a picture of a soldier and a lady on the front. And when I shake it, I can hear something rattling around inside it. I sit down and prise at the lid until it opens with a shower of rusty flakes. All that's inside is a foiled chocolate wrapper and a large folded piece of paper. The piece of paper has the word "secret" written on the front in my own handwriting. I stare at the thick, yellowing piece of paper, holding my breath as I wonder what I once thought was so secret. Carefully, I unfold it and spread it out across the attic floor. It's a hand-drawn map. And there it is, look. Ooh. Covered in tiny pictures and carefully written labels, something Rose and I must have made years ago. You can see there, it's very similar to the one we've seen on the front. Look, you've got Mitch. Oh, I wonder who Mitch is. Archipelago, Tangled Forest, Roar, the end, the crow's nest, and it says by Rose and Arthur. The map is of a wobbly land almost cut in half by a river. One side of the land is as colourful as a cartoon, with emerald green trees and bright blue lakes. The other half has hardly any colour at all. It's filled with blackened mountains, jagged grey cliffs, and forests of stick-like trees. Written along the top of the map, again in my spiky handwriting, is one word: Roar. Roar. The word sounds so familiar when I say it out loud. My eyes following the zigzag waves one of us had drawn across the sea, and suddenly I remember the way those waves crashed against the cliffs, and how there were so many of them the sea seemed to churn and boil. Just when I'm thinking that this map must have been inspired by some place Mum and Dad took us on holiday, I remember something else. Me and Rose bursting into this attic and shouting, "Let's play Roar!" I smile. Roar isn't a real place. It's a game that Rose and I used to play. One that was so good we drew a map of it. As I gaze at the map, the game comes creeping back to me. I see mountain ranges stretched between the folds of the paper and a curving coastline dotted with coves and cliffs. There's a cluster of jelly-shaped islands labelled Archipelago, a castle rising out of the sea, and 3 dragons soaring through the sky. Butterflies, or maybe fairies, are dotted everywhere, and sly-looking unicorns peer from between trees. I can't actually remember sitting next to Rose and drawing these things, but still, my mind tingles with recognition and something else. Something I can't quite put my finger on. Rose's footsteps pulling back to the attic. "What's that?" she says, kneeling next to me. "It's a map we drew of Roar." She frowns. "What's Roar?" "That game we used to play. You must remember." "Not really. We played loads of games up here. But Roar was our favourite. There were wizards and mermaids, and we'd fight and have adventures. We played it loads." Rose looks at me with wide, amused eyes. "If you say so, Arthur." I point at the blackened castle rising out of the sea. It's labelled the Crow's Nest. "That's where the baddie lived. And look," I tap a black circle. "That's my ninja wizard's cave. There he is. A smiling face peeks out of the cave, a pointed hat sitting on his head. I'm sure you had a friend too. Rose searches the jelly-shaped islands until she spots something. A girl's head poking out of the sea. She has blue hair drifting around her and the word Mitch written by the tip of her silver tail. Mitch, says Rose, frowning. Then she smiles. She was a mermaid witch, with a bad temper, and webbed fingers and a magic tail. Sun streams through the window, and outside the birds sing. Just for a moment, it's like when we were little. When we used to finish each other's sentences and make stuff up faster than we could think it. Together we stare at the map. Suddenly Rose shakes her head and jumps to her feet. She grabs a bulging bin bag and drags it towards the door. Hurry up, Arthur, she calls over her shoulder, or we'll never get our den. When I hear the bag thumping down the stairs, I turn back to the map. I can't resist. My eyes wander over the pathways and streams and mountain passes, and I start to lose myself in this strange place we invented. Then something catches my eye. A flicker of movement, a flash of light, and I find myself staring at the crow's nest. I see something that I missed before. A face is looking out of the window. The face is pale with round eyes and a crooked stitched mouth. It's a scarecrow, a boy, and I can just make out 2 wings sprouting from his back. Croaky, I say, the name coming easily to my lips. I stare at his black button eyes, and his smile seems to stretch. I'd almost forgotten about you, I whisper. Chapter 4. After lunch, Rose disappears to our room and Grandad comes up to the attic to check on our progress. Carrying all the stuff down the stairs is taking ages, I complain, staggering under a pile of magazines. We need a quicker way. Grandad looks out of the attic window. Maybe you could use this. I join him and see that the garden is directly below us. I suppose we could lower everything down on a rope. Or maybe, Grandad says, grabbing a handful of my magazines, you could chuck it all out. And before I can say, no, that's a ridiculous idea, he's hurled the magazines out of the window. They flutter through the air and land all over the grass. He turns to me with a gleam in his eye. Your turn, Arthur. Isn't it a bit dangerous? Not if we only do the small stuff, and no glass or metal, right? Right, I agree, nodding seriously. Then with a yell, I hurl out the rest of the magazines, making Grandad laugh with glee. Then we get down to the serious business of throwing the contents of the attic out the window. We go into a bit of a frenzy, whooping and yelling as bags burst open mid-air and boxes explode onto the patio. Eventually, and predictably, Rose comes up to ruin our fun. Grandad, your pants are hanging in a tree, she cries. Why have you even kept them? I was saving them to use as dusters, he explains. Then, possibly because Rose looks so disgusted, he shuffles off to collect them, coughing all the way down the stairs. Inhaler! Rose and I call after him. Then Rose flops down on the sofa, pulls a piano keyboard onto her lap and starts randomly pressing the keys. Do you want to chuck some stuff out? I ask, hauling a bag towards the window. This one's full of cuddly toys. Nah. So while Rose's creepy music fills the attic, I throw the cuddly toys out. Grandad appears and tries to catch them. When a stuffed Winnie the Pooh hits him in the face, he starts to fight it. It's really funny. I turn around to tell Rose to come and watch, but then I change my mind. There's no way she's getting off that sofa. Rose used to be all right. No, she was better than all right. She was funny and laughed at my jokes and, except for the dark, she wasn't scared of anything. It was Rose who jumped off the harbour wall one summer, right in front of all those teenage boys, and Rose who worked out that we could sledge down the sand dunes on trays. At school we were in the same class and played together every break time. I thought Rose liked this as much as I did, until our head teacher decided to mix up the Year 5 classes. We were given a piece of paper and told to write down the names of 3 people we wanted to be with. I wrote down one name, Rose. I didn't need anyone else. But then our teacher left the pieces of paper on his desk and I saw Rose's list. She'd written Angel, Nisha, Bryony. Rose was really happy in 5A with her 3 friends. Across the corridor in 5B, I wasn't so happy. Then Rose got her phone and got into YouTube makeup and her mates, and the Rose I knew sort of disappeared. I turn back to the window and shake out the last of the toys. Grandad is lying flat on his back now, letting them fall all over him. After the last teddy has bounced off his stomach, I go to clear out the darkest corner of the attic. I push aside a chunky TV and find myself staring into the sparkly eyes of a rocking horse. It rocks slightly, eyes wide, teeth bared, as if it's angry about being left in this dingy spot for so long. I grab its mane and pull it out. Look who I found, Rose. She looks up. What? It's just the old rocking horse. Yes, but it's your old rocking horse, isn't it? It was you who painted it black and covered it in glitter, and then you said it belonged to you, and I was never allowed to sit on it. What did you call it?" "Prosecco," she says flatly. "You better put it in the charity shop pile. Someone might want it." Suddenly I want to make Rose admit that she used to love this rocking horse. I want her to look at it and be interested in it and stop being cool just for a second. "Hey, Rose!" I drag it towards the window. "Do you think Prosecco would like to fly?" She looks up. "What are you on about? He's been stuck in the attic for too long. I think he'd like to feel the wind beneath his hooves." I'm at the window now. She leaps off the sofa and grabs hold of the mane. "You can't do him out of the window, Arthur. He's an antique." "He?" I say. "He?" Rose narrows her eyes. "Do you think you can still talk to him, Rose?" She yanks the rocking horse out of my hand. "Let's see, shall we?" Then she crouches down and presses her ear to his mouth. "What was that, Prosecco?" Got it." She looks up. "Prosecco wants me to tell you that you smell like the corridor outside the boys' toilet. In fact, Prosecco thinks that the corridor outside the boys' toilet might actually smell of Arthur." She smiles sweetly. "It looks like I can still talk to him." "Yeah, well, maybe I can too." I stick my ear next to its mouth. "Sorry, Prosecco? You think Rose's perfume smells like cat poo after it's been in the sun? Okay, I'll pass it on." Now it's Rose's turn. She rams her ear against his mouth. Yeah, got it." She looks up. "What Prosecco actually said was that it's you who smells like cat poo after it's been in the sun. You got it wrong because, unlike me, you don't speak fluent Moonlight Stallion." Moonlight Stallion. Ha! I knew Rose was still into Prosecco. He used to pop up in loads of our games, and I'm sure she was always sitting on him when we played Raw. Raw! In a flash, it's back, and an image darts into my mind of Rose sitting high on Prosecco, bossing me around and translating his insults for me. Prosecco rocks forward, and again I feel like he's looking at me. I tug him towards the window by his tail. Suddenly, desperate to get away from his sparkly, staring eyeballs. "He still wants to fly," I say. "He said so." Rose's hand grabs the tail. "I'd let go if I were you." "Why?" Her voice drops to a dramatic whisper. "Because since you last saw Prosecco, his tail has become poisonous and every single strand stings like a bee. The pain is intense, Arthur, and it will shoot through you like 1,000 needles burrowing into your skin." "So, you're holding the tail too?" She shoves her face close to mine, eyes shining, and whispers, "The poison only affects boys." A chuckle made us look up. Grandad is standing in the doorway with a cup of coffee. "It's so wonderful to see you two playing again. Nothing could make me happier." "We're not playing, Grandad." Rose lets go of Prosecco's tail. "We're fighting. Big difference." "Sounded a bit like playing to me," he says. Then he sits on the sofa, props his feet on the suitcase and says, "Well, get on with it. This attic won't clear itself out."